So think about the last time you sat in a car with someone for, say, a 3-hour drive without saying a single word.
Oh, yeah. That can go one of two ways.
Right. Like, is that an agonizing silence where you're just, desperately searching your brain for something, anything to say just to fill the void? Or, is it the deepest, most comfortable conversation you've had all year, where the vibe is entirely known and you just feel perfectly connected?
Where you completely understand each other without having to articulate a single thought.
Exactly. And today, we're doing a deep dive into a document that claims words are, well, usually just getting in the way.
Yeah, it's a fascinating piece.
It really is. It's incredibly brief, just a few sparse lines of philosophy titled simply presence.docs.
Just a single document.
Yeah. And the thesis here is that our society's entire concept of communication, action, and human connection is fundamentally backward.
Which is quite a claim because, we spend our days absolutely bathed in noise.
Like constant noise.
Right. You have endless notifications, constant chatter, this relentless expectation to constantly articulate your thoughts and broadcast your positions to everyone.
Always be posting, always be talking.
Exactly. But this source asks us to do the exact opposite. It demands we strip away the verbal noise and examine the absolute bedrock of how we relate to each other.
Starting with what I think is a pretty audacious claim.
That true communication requires no language at all.
Right. So the opening lines of the text lay out this paradox right away. It says, silence speaks volumes without uttering a word. Nothing is unsaid.
And the uncompromising nature of that final phrase.
The nothing is unsaid part.
Yeah. Nothing is unsaid is what really anchors the entire document. It completely challenges the modern assumption that language is the ultimate tool for conveying reality.
Because we usually think more words equals better communication.
We do, but if you look closely at what language actually is, it's essentially a compression algorithm.
Wait, a compression algorithm? Like a zip file?
Exactly like that. Think about it. You have a vast, incredibly complex emotion, or a lived experience, or this intricate thought.
All this raw data.
Right. And you are forced to squeeze all of that raw data into a vocalized word. The word sad or, happy is just a tiny, low-resolution thumbnail of a massive file.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I see what you mean.
Something vital always gets lost in translation when you compress it like that.
That makes total sense. You're always losing data when you compress a file.
Exactly. But the text argues that silence carries the entire uncompressed high-fidelity message. It has volume.
Okay, I like the compression algorithm idea, but I have to push back on the literal phrasing here just a bit.
Sure, go ahead.
If I don't speak, you don't know my bank PIN on, you don't know what I want for dinner, you don't know what time my flight lands.
Fair point.
So how does literally nothing get left unsaid? Silence can't transmit practical data.
Well, you're right to separate transactional data from existential state.
Transactional data, meaning the bank PIN-ons and the dinner orders.
Yeah, right. If we were talking about logistics, yes, obviously you need the compression algorithm of language.
Okay, good. I thought I was taking crazy pills for a second.
No. But this text is exploring the reality of human connection, not data transfer. When it says nothing is unsaid, it's pointing to the transmission of your total current state of being.
Total current state of being. Unpack that for me.
So, from a psychological and even physiological standpoint, humans are always broadcasting. We have what neuroscientists call limbic resonance.
Limbic resonance? What is that?
It's this phenomenon where our autonomic nervous systems are continuously reading and synchronizing with the nervous systems of the people around us.
Wait, so even when we aren't exchanging verbal data, our bodies and minds are locked in a continuous, silent dialogue.
Yes, you're constantly syncing up.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. It's like you walk into a room where someone is furious, but they're sitting perfectly still.
And they're smiling politely.
Right. They're smiling, but the air still feels thick. You could cut it with a knife. Your own heart rate speeds up just being near them.
Exactly. Their silent state is entirely overpowering the polite words they are using.
So the anger isn't unsaid.
No, the anger is being shouted across the room at a biological frequency. The words are redundant.
Wow. That really flips it.
The source is arguing that when you achieve a genuine, grounded internal state, Silence isn't an empty void waiting to be filled with chatter.
It's an active channel.
It is a brimming, active channel of communication.
Oh.
What you truly are is already radiating outward so undeniably that trying to explain it with words would just muddy the signal.
Right, which logically forces us to ask, I guess, if words aren't the primary vehicle for this high-fidelity communication, what exactly is doing the heavy lifting?
Right. What is the actual signal?
Yeah, what is being broadcast in that silence? And the document names it directly.
It does.
It names it as our presence. The text shifts to this line. Presence. One who understands the true nature of being beneficially impacts all that he or she encounters.
Notice the shift away from active intervention here.
What do you mean by active intervention?
Well, from childhood, society conditions us to believe that to have a beneficial impact on the world, we must take vigorous outward action.
Right, we have to campaign, build things, advise people.
Fix people. Argue our good ideas into existence.
Yeah, hustle culture, activism, doing things.
But this document strips all of that frantic activity away.
It just says presence.
Yes. It claims that simply possessing an understanding of your true nature automatically, by default, creates a beneficial impact on every single encounter.
Okay, see, this is where the philosophy meets serious friction in the real world for me.
I figured you'd push back here.
Well, I understand the idea of a calm presence altering the mood of a room. Like, think of it like a massive object in space, right? A planet.
A gravitational pull.
Exactly. A planet doesn't have to actively reach out and grab a passing asteroid. Its mere gravitational field alters the trajectory of everything that enters its orbit.
That's a great analogy.
Thanks. But I still have to challenge the idea that this passive presence is enough.
Go on.
If I just sit there with a perfectly serene internal state, that doesn't stop a car crash from happening in front of me.
Yeah.
It doesn't rewrite an unjust law or, feed a hungry person.
Right.
Doesn't this border on spiritual bypassing?
Right.
Like using enlightenment as an excuse to not help.
That is the exact tension this text creates. And it requires us to look at the origin of our actions.
The origin.
Yes. The source isn't arguing that you should never pull someone from a burning car or work to change a broken system.
Okay, good.
It is pointing out that action born from a chaotic, unexamined internal presence usually multiplies the chaos.
Oh, okay, I see.
Think about the historical figures who have caused the most widespread damage.
Yeah, plenty of them.
They were almost always individuals taking massive, vigorous action to fix the world. But they were doing it from a state of deep internal neurosis, fear, and ego.
They were trying to change the environment without fixing their own gravitational field first.
Exactly. When you enter the orbit of someone who actually understands the true nature of being, it immediately calms your own nervous system.
You feel safer.
You feel safer, more open, less defensive. They don't have to actively counsel you.
Just being around them helps.
Yes. Just being in their presence beneficially impacts you, making you more capable of taking clear, effective action yourself.
So it's like a ripple effect.
The text implies that the highest leverage point for changing the world isn't forced intervention. It's elevating your own baseline frequency so that every interaction you have, no matter how small, naturally organizes the chaos around you.
Which transitions us directly into the mechanics of how we actually achieve that. Because if our presence acts as this constant gravitational field impacting everyone around us...
We need to make sure it's a good field.
Right. The most urgent task is to ensure that field is beneficial rather than toxic. And the source provides a directive for this. It states, the greatest good that you can do for other is to know thyself.
We are looking at a radical inversion of traditional moral frameworks here.
Radical inversion. How so?
Well, standard ethics dictate that the greatest good involves outward sacrifice, depleting your resources, prioritizing others at all costs.
Put everyone else first, right. The whole martyr complex.
Exactly. But the text redirects our focus entirely inward. It argues that turning inward to know thyself isn't just some self-care hobby.
Not just bubble baths and face masks.
Right. It is the supreme act of public service.
Okay, let me bring in an analogy to test the mechanics of this, because I want to make sure I'm getting this.
Let's hear it.
Imagine a village relying on a well for water. You might spend all day, every day, frantically drawing water and running around handing it out to thirsty people.
Which looks like the ultimate altruistic action.
Exactly. But if you haven't taken the time to climb down into the well and inspect the source, you might not realize the water is contaminated. You're exhausting yourself handing out poison, genuinely believing you are helping. So, knowing yourself is inspecting the well.
That captures the danger of unexamined action perfectly. Because if you are blind to your own deep-seated insecurity,
The contamination in the well.
yes, your unresolved traumas, your hidden biases, your ego, you inevitably project that internal chaos onto everyone around you.
Without even realizing it.
And the tragic irony is that you often do this exactly when you are actively trying to help.
Oh, man. Give me an example of that in real life.
Okay. Consider a parent who aggressively pushes a child into a specific high-status career that the child clearly hates.
Oh, yeah, like forcing them to be a doctor or a lawyer.
Right. The parent genuinely believes they are doing good and sacrificing for the child's future. They are handing out the water.
But the water is poisoned.
In reality, they are blindly trying to satisfy their own unexamined anxiety about financial security, or maybe their own need for social validation.
So their version of help is actually just a harmful projection of their own unhealed wounds. Wow. Okay, so if we accept that, the obvious next question is about the actual mechanism of knowing thyself. How do we actually clear the well?
Right. It's not about taking a personality quiz online to find out if you're an introvert or an extrovert.
Like, which kind of bread are you? No. What does the hard work of self-inquiry actually look like in practice?
It involves the rigorous and honestly often deeply uncomfortable process of stripping away the narratives you've constructed about who you are.
Stripping away narratives.
It means sitting with your triggers instead of immediately reacting to them.
Okay, so say someone cuts me off in traffic or dismisses my idea in a meeting.
The default ego reaction is to externalize the anger, to blame them, to shout, to assert your dominance.
Right, to honk the horn or get defensive in the meeting.
But the mechanism of knowing thyself requires you to catch that spark of anger before it leaves your body and trace it backward.
Trace it backward, like ask why I'm really mad.
Yes. You ask yourself, why does my baseline sense of safety require a stranger to validate my ideas? What ancient insecurity is this minor slight triggering?
So it's treating every intense emotional reaction as a diagnostic tool rather than an objective truth. You're actively hunting down your own illusions.
Exactly. You dismantle the ego's defense mechanisms one by one. By doing this relentless inward work, you remove the hidden agendas from your behavior.
You stop handing out poisoned water.
You stop helping others just so they will love you back or to distract yourself from your own pain. You clear the lens.
And only then can your outward actions and your silent presence be genuinely beneficial.
Because you are taking responsibility for your own psychological pollution, so it stops contaminating the communal environment.
So if you're listening to this on your commute or sitting at your desk right now, think about the energy you are about to bring into your next interaction. Are you entering that space as a chaotic variable reacting to unexamined triggers?
Or have you done enough inward work to act as a stabilizing force?
Because that leads us to the ultimate destination of this document. Once we do that hard work, once we clear the well and trace all our triggers back to their root, what is actually left?
That's the big question.
Yeah. And the text provides a definitive answer. It says, this understanding is knowing via being. Know that you are love, and that it is the nature of love to love. You are that.
There is a really significant philosophical leap happening in these final lines.
Knowing via being.
The text deliberately separates intellectual knowledge from what it calls knowing via being. It's an experiential threshold you have to cross.
Okay, it's the difference between memorizing the physics of a bicycle.
Right.
Like the gyroscopic effect of the wheels, the center of mass, the friction coefficient.
All the data.
All the data, yeah. The difference between knowing that and actually swinging your leg over the seat and riding. You can study the mechanics of a bicycle for 20 years in a library, but you don't actually know how to ride until your body embodies the balance.
That's spot on. The text is demanding that level of embodiment for self-knowledge.
You can't just read about removing your ego.
No, you have to physically live in the state of its absence.
And when you reach that state of absence, when the ego is fully dismantled, the text makes a staggering ontological claim about what remains.
It really does. It doesn't say you have love or that you are capable of generating love. It capitalizes the word and says you are love.
It equates your fundamental bedrock nature with love itself. But we have to deconstruct that a little bit.
Why is that?
Because you are love sounds a bit like a bumper sticker.
Oh, sure.
It's a trope that gets thrown around in wellness spaces so often it kind of loses all its teeth. In the context of this rigorous self-inquiry we just discussed, what does it actually mean psychologically to exist as love?
Well, it requires us to redefine the word entirely.
Okay.
In this context, love is not a romantic emotion or some fleeting feeling of affection.
It's not Valentine's Day love.
No. It is the baseline state of consciousness when fear and separation are removed.
When the ego is gone.
Right. When you strip away the ego, which is really just a survival mechanism built on the illusion that you are separate from and threatened by everything else, what remains isn't a blank void. What remains is an inherent structural connectedness to everything around you.
And the text defines that inherent connectedness as love.
Yes. Furthermore, it states, it is the nature of love to love.
Meaning?
It's not an action you have to put effort into. A fire doesn't wake up and try to emit heat.
Emitting heat is just what fire is. It's the inescapable physical consequence of being fire.
Precisely.
So, if our baseline architectural state is just this connective presence, if we are love, and it requires zero effort to radiate that, then it frames all of our negative human experiences in a completely different light.
How so?
Well, the sudden flashes of anger, the petty jealousies, the deep anxieties, none of that is our actual nature.
Right.
It's a symptom of forgetting. It's a temporary amnesia where the ego jumps back into the driver's seat and convinces us we are isolated and under attack.
That is the core insight of the entire document. When we suffer from that amnesia, we completely lose our beneficial presence.
We start handing out the poisoned water again.
We get defensive. We try to force our will on the world. We project our unexamined traumas onto others.
And we desperately try to fill the silence with useless, compressing words to prove we exist.
But when we remember, when we utilize self-inquiry to return to knowing via being, we drop the act.
We return to that high-fidelity silence.
And because our fundamental nature is this connective tissue of love, our mere presence naturally alters the environment for the better.
Wow. You know, we started this deep dive looking at a document so sparse it almost felt like it was missing pages.
It's very short.
But it actually contains a complete closed-loop framework for existing in the world.
It really does.
Let's trace the line of logic one more time. First, we have to rethink communication, recognizing that silence isn't an awkward void, but a dense, high-fidelity space where our actual state of being is transmitted. Second, we realize that in that silence, it is our presence, our internal gravitational field, that alters the environment and impacts everyone we encounter.
The planet analogy.
Right. Third, the only way to ensure that impact is beneficial is through the rigorous inward work of knowing ourselves, inspecting our own well so we stop projecting our unhealed wounds onto the world.
Doing the hard work.
And finally, when you strip away the ego through that self-inquiry, you discover that your core identity is an inherent connectedness. You are love itself.
It strips away all the exhausting, forced intervention of modern life and replaces it with the quiet, formidable power of simply being in alignment with your true nature.
So before you take your headphones off and transition into your next meeting or walk through your front door, consider how this reframes your daily interactions. If the text is right, if nothing is unsaid in true silence, and if it is the nature of love to love at your very core, then think about the moments in your life where you feel the most intensely misunderstood or disconnected.
The moments where you are frantic to explain yourself.
Flooding the room with words to try and force someone to see your perspective. Perhaps those aren't failures of communication or vocabulary at all.
That's a great point to end on.
Perhaps they are simply moments where you've forgotten your own baseline nature. And instead of taking a breath to clear the well, you forgot to let your silent presence do the talking.